Hello my fellow engineers. Today we're going to dive into exactly what the Turn X and the Turn A are. We'll explore the established canon as well as layer it carefully with reasoned theories to trace the discovery of the Turn X and the development of the Turn A from it. Now it is unknown exactly what condition the Turn X was in when it was recovered, and even its arrival in the Earth's sphere is not fully understood. Official sources state that it is believed to have drifted outside of the Earth's sphere, but even that's only in a form of assumption rather than a confirmed fact. Rather, it was heavily damaged, partially functional, or nearly intact at the time of recovery was never clearly stated. However, given that the Turn X is covered in self-repairing nanomachines, it is entirely possible that any damage that is sustained before or during its journey could have at least partially been repaired or fully repaired by the time it was found. Now, we're not exactly sure what faction discovered the Turn X, but to make things simple, let's just call it the Earth Sphere government. So the Earth Sphere government eventually recovered the machine, though the details of how remains vague. It may have been emitting an unusual energy signature, or perhaps it appeared in a region where human activity was just distant enough for it just to be noticed. Now, not knowing its true purpose or why it was going into the Earth Sphere, the Earth Sphere government decided to call it the X, which was meant to signify, well, the unknown. Now, I should also note that the Turn X seen in the series is not its original form. The version piloted by Gundam is a repaired and partially restored unit rebuilt by his engineers under his command, but more on that later. Now, the Turn X arrival triggered intense concern. Its technology was beyond anything that the Earth engineers have ever seen, and its combat potential was feared to be enough to take on the Earth's military single-handedly. It appeared to be the kind of weapon that could, really on its own, dominate the entire Earth sphere. And this raised a terrifying possibility. What if the Turn X was only one unit among many, and somewhere out there was an entire civilization with an army of machines on the same level? Now, the Earth Sphere government carefully analyzed the mobile suits, and they came to believe that the Turn X was built by humans who long since departed the solar system. Now, they were thought to be descendants of earlier spacefaring humans, very likely new type or some post-new type evolution, which made the Turn X operating systems and control architecture even more difficult to comprehend. And by this era, new types in the Earth Sphere were either rare or virtually non-existent. While the anime does not canonically link the Turn X to aliens, there are some Turn A novelizations as well as side materials that does mention alien life, which opens the door to speculation. Is it at least plausible to imagine that, even if the Turn X was built by humans, there may have been alien influence or contact that may have shaped some of its technologies? Perhaps it was through cooperation, assimilation, or even exposure to non-human science. Now, this is not confirmed, but it remains a very interesting and on its face plausible theory given the monstrous leap and capabilities that the Turn X represents. Now, faced with the Turn X and the possibility of an extrasolar human civilization with technology far surpassing their own, the Earth Sphere government initiated a massive reverse engineering program based on the Turn X systems. This became the foundation of the Turn Development Project. Although the specifications of each prototype is not fully documented, it is implied that there are various System A testbed machines which each explore a different aspect of the Turn X technologies. One important prototype we do know of is the System A-98. It was a testbed that focuses on spatial transfer. Initially, it was a mobile suit scale teleportation. These experiments overcame many iterations and eventually culminated into the final system, the System A-99, better known as the Turn A Gundam. Now, the Turn A Gundam was designed to operate without any limitations. While most mobile suits are built for specialized roles like close combat or heavy assault, the Turn A was deliberately engineered with a philosophy of total multifunctionality. It was meant to perform effectively in any environment and under any tactical condition. It was a true Swiss Army knife machine that could stand alone if necessary. And to support it, the Turn A was also designed as a core unit of a Device Operation Control Base, or DOC. So the DOC base functioned as a powerful tactical hub for resupplement, rearmament, maintenance, as well as possibly even spatial transferred support equipment. Now in the system, the Turn A was not only just a mobile suit, it was a centerpiece of a complete autonomous combat infrastructure. It was also the first mobile suit built in the Earth sphere specifically with interstellar class warfare in mind. At the heart of the Turn A is the DHGCP power source. Think about it as a black hole class reactor that provides extreme energy output while reducing the effectiveness weight of the machine. This leaves the internal structure largely hollow compared to conventional mobile suits, making the Turn A feel extraordinarily light for its size. The Turn A's movements are controlled in part through a spine pulse sensor system, which reads the pilot's intent and translates it into movement, allowing for a fluid and very responsive operation at a superhuman performance level. Its armor is also covered in nanoskin, which is a layer of nanomachines that provide a molecular level of protection and self-repair, similar to the nanomachines coating on the Turn X. And the Turn A's distinctive spiral head is framed by its mustache-like cheek guards, which houses sensors and processing systems, giving it both an iconic look and advanced perception abilities. And because it was also built without the usual tactical limitations and carried the ability to wipe out or literally dominate any known military force, the Earth Sphere ultimately honored it with the name Gundam. After the completion of the Turn A, the Earth Sphere government sought to expand the project into something more scalable. This led to the development of a mass production line known as the Turn B GEM. While not as powerful or as sophisticated as the Turn A itself, the Turn B was still built on the same technological foundation. It simplified several systems. The Turn B units lacked the nanoskin armor and likely did not use the same level of thought-based control via the spine pulse sensors. In terms of armament, they carried more conventional weapons, but at least one is depicted with a shoulder-mounted Minuski-type disabler. It was a non-destructive weapon designed to incapacitate enemy mobile suits rather than destroying them. Now, it is unclear whether the Turn B was truly mass-produced in large numbers or built in a limited production run, but some official side materials indicate that there were at least 4 of these units operating alongside the Turn A during the Dark History. Now, canon does not state which faction deployed them, though it is often assumed they were fielded by the Earthside forces near the end of the war, or aka the Final War. What makes the Turn B particularly interesting is its connection to a broader design philosophy. From what we know of the Turn project, the Turn B GEM was not the only machine envisioned with a non-destructive weapon. During the concentration phase of the System A, there were plans for a non-lethal mobile suit disabler, which is a Minuski-based disabler rather than a standard destructive weapon like a beam saber or a beam rifle. However, the development of the non-lethal system was not completed in time for the System's A demonstration test, and so as a temporary measure, beam sabers were installed on the Turn A as its melee option. And this is where the larger conflict and theories begin to intercede. Now, according to the common interpretation of the Dark History, a civil war eventually broke out in the Earth Sphere between 2 factions. One side, along with the Turn A, believing that civilization was too corrupt and dangerous to continue as it was, so their answer was to reset the world. The other side, along with the Turn A, and believed in a ruling and dominating through overwhelming power, using superior technology as a means to enforce peace and control. And from this point, a particular reading of the situation emerges. The non-lethal weapon concepts for the Turn A and the fully realized non-lethal systems for the Turn B can be read as a sign that the Turn A was not originally built purely as a doomsday device. Instead, it may have been intended as a precautionary defense measure, which a super machine capable of protecting the Earth Sphere while still leaving room for dialogue and de-escalation. The presence of non-lethal options suggests that, at least at first, those who designed and backed the Turn A envisioned scenarios where they could defend themselves, but also signal a willingness to negotiate. Rather that's extrasolar humans or beyond technologies like the Turn X, or with other human powers in orbit in deep space. Now on the other side, one can imagine a powerful faction within the government or military that became deeply afraid of whatever might exist beyond the Earth's sphere. Now to them, the Turn X was the perfect weapon, an overwhelming weapon that could prevent the Earth's sphere from appearing weak, both to external forces and to internal rivals. In this view, seizing control of the Turn X will be a way to secure dominance, to deter, intimidate, as well as to overthrow the oppression under the banner of protecting humanity. A struggle between the factions holding the Turn A and a faction controlling the Turn X could have very easily escalated into a full-scale civil war. However, the precise politics unfolded. The conflict eventually escalated to the point where the Turn A and the Turn X met in direct battle on the moon. In that decisive clash, the Turn A severely damaged the Turn X, inflicting the now famous X-shaped scar across his chest, a wound that remained visible centuries later even when Gingen and him unearthed it in the current century. And I'll even extend one of my theories even further. It is completely possible to imagine that the pilot or even the leadership behind the Turn A realized that public support or even political power was moving towards the Turn X side and his doctrine of domination through technological might. Now, if that side gained absolute control, especially with the Turn X technology as its cornerstone, that result could have been a war truly on an interstellar scale once humanity spreads back into space. And faced with that horrifying prospect, the Turn A's user may have chosen the extreme and tragic option, unleashing the Moonlight Butterfly on the Earth to reset civilization completely. Now, the effect of the Moonlight Butterfly is said in some materials to reach from Earth outward and even possibly as far as the orbit of Jupiter. Yet, the moon itself did not suffer the same level of devastation as the planetary surface, which this opened space for further speculations. And perhaps the Turn X may have used his own Moonlight Butterfly or some other defensive system to shield the moon. Perhaps the Turn A's pilot intentionally spared the moon as an act of mercy or as a way to preserve a seed of human civilization off-world. In that reading, the Turn A's destruction of Earth's technologies base was not a random way to start an apocalypse, but it was a brutal, last resort measure to prevent humanity from escalating into a war that could engulf an entire galaxy. So in the end, both machines survived the Moonlight Butterfly and were preserved well into the current century. That alone adds weight to the idea that the Turn X may have to use his own Moonlight Butterfly or some sort of similar nanomachine field to shield itself, and in doing so may have helped protect the moon as well. But I'll leave it right there for now. What do you think? Do these theories have a leg to stand on, or do you have a different interpretation that makes way more sense? Do you see another angle on why the Turn A and the Turn X ended the way that they did? Or how the moon survived the reset of Earth? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more Gundam content, hit that like and subscribe button. Farewell, my fellow engineers.